A very common question that is asked to me in the OPD visit, especially in the first trimester, is, doctor, when exactly should we visit the hospital in an emergency, and what are the conditions which are danger signals, and this requires us to report to the hospital immediately and not waste time in calling you. One, I guess, is the most important symptom that should never be ignored in early pregnancy is bleeding. Any amount of bleeding, spotting should always be evaluated on an urgent basis. Please do not sit at home waiting for it to get sorted, because you never know what internal process is actually taking place, whether there is an internal bleed occurring inside the uterus which might hamper the growth and development of the developing embryo fetus. So you need, and all this cannot be evaluated by the doctor even physically, and ultrasound is needed in these cases to understand what exactly is going wrong with the pregnancy. So you must report to the hospital immediately if you have excessive bleeding, or even spotting should not be ignored. Also, if you have very severe cramping pain, generally when there is some amount of pain, your doctor, depending on your medical condition and depending on all your reports, would have already put you on certain medications or some injections to keep the pain at bay. But despite that, if the pain isn't settling, it is associated with increasing cramping, there is some amount of spotting associated, then you might be looking at an impending or a threatened miscarriage. So you need to visit the doctor or the hospital immediately. Thirdly, if you have very severe nausea and vomiting in early pregnancy, that more often than not is manageable with medications that we tend to start for all patients. But we tell them that don't take it regularly, but whenever you have an excessive bout, you must be on those medications for some time. But many a times, despite taking oral medications, the vomiting does not settle, and there is such a lot of nausea and there's such a lot of vomiting that the patient ends up getting dehydrated, her blood pressure starts falling, her urine output may come down because of that, and she may feel completely low and tired because of the same. So these conditions, whenever the patient reaches, ideally she should not be reaching that condition at all, but if she does and she's unable to take anything orally, you must report to the hospital immediately, because in that case generally we tend to stop oral feeding. We tend to put the patient on intravenous fluids, intravenous medications to control the nausea and the vomiting, and only once the patient completely settles and her investigations, her parameters come normal, only after that we attempt oral feeding in such patients. So these are the few conditions which require immediate attention at a hospital level and cannot be managed at home in first trimester.